Do you ever have that feeling where you're having such a good time and then suddenly you have a realization that because you're having such a good time, you must have forgotten something? It's like the progress that a character makes during the second act, and there's something calamitous that you can feel is just about to happen. Getting all of these plants in the ground, I was enjoying myself so much, but part of me was thinking, is this premature? Should I be doing something else? Have I forgotten something?
No! No!
But then part of me remembers that gardening by its nature is one of the most optimistic things that you can possibly do. And the joy that you get from planting out seedlings, planting seeds, and preparing the ground in the completely unrealistic hope that it's going to go completely according to plan is part of the reason why so many people enjoy all parts of gardening, not just the harvest. The first crops that I started to put into the ground are broad beans, and I put in some what were labelled as first early potatoes, but apparently when I've looked it up, it's called the Jazzy variety, and allegedly it's more like a second early. And my thinking is that I want to use competitive plants that won't really struggle with having weeds around them, but also they're so big that they outcompete a lot of the weeds and shade a lot of them out. Because although I will try and use a combination of methods, including some form of sheet mulching, like using plastic to cover areas of ground so that weeds germinate and then die because they don't have enough light, or using cardboard and then wood chips or a mulch on top of that in order to do the same thing, but then the cardboard breaks down so that then the area is ready for planting the following year. So I got these onions that I sowed back at the end of February, so what's that, about 5 weeks ago, probably 4 or 5 weeks. I think I sowed them 4 or 5 weeks ago, but they're about ready to go in the ground, and I've sown multiple ones in each tray. But most of them have germinated, to be fair, but unlike I put in some early potato, said they were labelled as first earlies, but I've since found out that most people rate them as second earlies, which means that instead of cropping in June, July, it will probably be a little bit later, probably July, end of July, August, that you could crop them if they're a second early. And they also apparently store fairly well in the ground and become like a main crop potato, where they'll become like full-size potatoes rather than salad potatoes. What was I on about? Right, in there, they're potatoes, and I've got broad beans, and I think that they'll probably do okay with the competition of the weeds growing around them, and if I'm careful with my weeding, then I think I'll probably be able to keep on top of it, because I haven't got too much of an area that I need to be doing any weeding in. Whereas these onions, I don't think they'll tolerate that type of competition, so I have just got some cardboard and then cut out some holes every 10 inches or every 25 centimetres, and I'm going to plant these onion plugs into those, just to try and keep some of the weeds at bay, and I might just weight it down with some wood chip and grass clippings or whatever mulch I can find, just so that it doesn't blow away, and maybe put a few bricks on the edge or something and see how I get on. But I haven't grown them before, and I'm excited to see how it is. I've never bothered to grow onions, mainly because I've just grown things that I've had the space for in a small garden, so it always felt like onions are fairly cheap, easy to get hold of, so I just didn't bother. So I'm excited to actually see how we get on with these, and I'll get a load of spring onions as I thin these out, because they're, if they're 6 in some of the plugs over the space of the time that it takes for the onions to mature. I can pull some of them out, have them as salad onions, and then allow one of them in each cell to be my main onion. I put down some grass clippings on the onions. I was thinking of doing it to help weight them down, because, you know, grass clippings are well known in engineering for their ability to weigh things down. Yeah, perhaps it was a shit idea, but I've put that on there, and then I put a little bit of wood chip around the edge just to make sure that I've got loads of slugs to eat everything else. But I mean, there's going to be loads of slugs around here anyway, it's futile. I'm trying to do a great deal of planning to prevent that. I haven't actually got anything in the ground that I'm particularly worried about there being loads of slug damage to, so actually that's okay. I've got Desiree just because I quite like a waxy potato. I prefer waxy potato mash than floury potato mash. And waxy potatoes are generally a little bit harder to get hold of than like Maris Piper or King Edward, so that's why I've chosen them. They're quite big ones, and I was debating putting them in because, you know, they're quite prolific, but I absolutely love them, so I don't really have any concern that they're going to overtake anything else. And actually, seeing as how weed infested everything is, then at least I've got a really competitive plant that's going to do, you know, it's going to be absolutely fine among a ton of weeds and hopefully shade a load of them out so that I can start working on some other areas. So I've got lots of the ground covered by plants that I actually want, rather than all the shit that's here before, like tons of the equisetum in the other parts of the plot, which yeah, you can see if I take you to how much water there is here, and all of this mare's tail. It's all over there. And so I think what I'm going to do is I may be able to use this area because it's been covered with plastic, so if I can clear off the brambles that have been growing on top, there should just be a few roots in that little section. Try and drain some of this, and then I'm going to have a pond at the low point and a fairly big pond so that it can actually manage some of the water that ends up on this plot. So I'll probably dig it a little bit so that it can contain some of the water for now without a liner. Then when it dries up in the summer, would be dig out the rest of it and then put in the liner into the pond so that it'll actually remain full once it fills up. And then we're going to fill, the treasurer said that we can get some gravel to backfill the trench that I put in so that the water still flows down it a bit. They didn't want to put in a plastic perforated pipe, but whatever. Their prerogative. If they're going to pay for the gravel, then I'm happy with that. I think that they're just pleased that someone's actually doing something with the plot, and that I've located the spring, which some people referred to as Peckham Spring last time. I'll be selling the water. Anyway, really pleased with how it's looking now. Just feels like feels like there's now something to look forward to and something appealing about it.